Good morning. Good morning, St Kitts and Nevis. It's Friday. Today is Friday, and welcome to another edition of Voices right here on WINN FM 98.9. I'm your host, of course, Devonne Cornelius, and today we will be paying tribute to some wonderful calypsonians, some of their music that I enjoy, and I think you too have enjoyed the music. We have Singing Sandra, the late Singing Sandra, who passed over 2 weeks ago. We have the mighty Shadow, and we have one of our very own, still going strong, Miko, King Miko over in Nevis. These three are some of my favorite calypsonians, and today we will be playing some of their music, which I have dubbed to be the best. If you are following us via Facebook, you would realize I have on my African wear today, and I'm trying for the month of February, which is Black History Month. I will be I'll try to find something that is related or African or heritage to wear to celebrate the month. Thank you so much for tuning in to Voices. Today is Friday, the 5th day of February 2021. Let us say a quick thank you to all our sponsors and all of you who took time from your busy schedule to be a part of Voices today. Again, thank you so much for joining us via Facebook, YouTube, and other social media platforms. If you're listening via radio, welcome. If you're driving, if you're in the bus, if you're in your car, if you're on your way to work, if you're coming from work, if you're on lunch, welcome. Welcome. Continue to stay safe and do your part in keeping St Kitts and Nevis safe from the COVID-19 virus. So for the rest of the program, you will be hearing some good music from Singing Sandra. But for this one, it would be more so of an interview she had with someone, talking about her life, where she grew up and all of that. Some persons would say, well, we've been hearing about all what Singing Sandra did for a whole week now. But I think this one is very, very much interesting. And then we will be hearing one of my favorite songs, and I think it may be one of yours as well, from the mighty Shadow, Dingley. And then we will be going over to Nevis to hear from King Miko. So I'll just have the technician pull up that in short order. But we'll say thank you to our sponsors, and when we return, we will go right into that. Again, thank you so much for choosing Voices, and thank you so much for listening to WINN FM 98.9. I'm your host for today, Devonne Cornelius.
Gift for Dad's birthday? Click. Ooh, Janice's retirement party? Click. Outfit for my girl's wedding? Click.
With TDC Airbox, you click, we ship. Register for your free U.S. mailbox today and shop all your favorite stores online. Enjoy the convenience. Free consolidation up to £10. Competitive rates. Free package tracking account with live notifications. Free delivery and, of course, excellent customer service. Visit our website at tdcairbox.com and register today. For more information, visit our offices at the C.A. Paul Industrial Site in St. Kitts and Penny's Industrial Site in Nevis. Follow us on social media at TDC Airbox. TDC Airbox. You click, we ship. Terms and conditions apply.
Get ready ready for an exciting year with Flow Broadband and TV connecting you at home. Sign up now and get a free Samsung tablet worth over $900. Up to 100 megabits per second blazing internet will keep everyone on top of everything every day. While Flow TV delivers the best home entertainment with the latest shows on demand in HD plus favorites you can record. Visit your nearest Flow store today to sign up for Flow Broadband and TV and get your free Samsung tablet. Conditions apply.
When the star them there, we a top man, we take charge. Magnum we drink and we a shell down hard. Blast like a star with some Galapar. Over no we take it too far. Take charge, take charge.
We a hot gal, we set the trend. Magnum we drink for the top man then. Wine with the style and no stop from spin. Hot blend, back bend and take charge, take charge.
Magnum tonic wine for the real star them. Take charge, take charge. Must be 18 or older, drink responsibly.
Welcome back to Voices right here on WINN FM 98.9. We will be having some good Kaiso music in the house today. Today is Kaiso Friday, Kaiso, and we're going over to Nevis to hear from King Miko. Now, this one is an exciting one. This one is called Rough Me Up. This one was released during Culturama in Nevis in 1999 by King Miko. He's a legend. Listen to this one.
Food in the kitchen, food on the table. But you're not able. I lying home in my bed. Man, I will want to rest my head, but I hear it. Neighbor and she sweet man, like they're having big confusion. So I listen in. I hear when the woman said, for too long now I'm frustrated. Every time you come to bed, is one bam you fall down dead, fall down dead, fall down dead, fall down dead. Long time you ain't take me out. Long time you ain't rock me out. You just like Lorne and Mikey Slack. All you do, you full of chat. Man, take me down, Sandala. Give me the lele. And when the music's over, give me the lele. Let's go down to this bit. Give me the lele. I want you to ram it until 4 days. Give me the lele. Whoa, rough me up. Rough me up. Rough me up. Rough me up. Then let's go Indian Castle. Down in them house table. Then take me down Lover's Lane. I want you to kill me with that sweet pain. Rough me up in the bedroom. Rough me up in the bathroom. Rough me up in the backyard. Rough me up in the front yard. Long time me ain't get no loving. Long time. Time you hit the bed, you're sleeping. Long time. I listening, I feeling shame. I never know me neighbor so lame. Boy, I listen there. Listen there. The woman she carrying on, with not a thing but a headband on. Boy, I people. understand how you out there looking, woman. You can't even keep a stand, and you playing macho man, macho man, macho man, macho man. I buy all kind of perfume, and I at the big bedroom. I wear sexy lingerie, I still can't feel you out there. Man, take me down, Sandala. And when the music's over, let's go up in this bed. I want you to jam it until 40. Me up, rough me up, rough me up, rough me up. Then let's go down Lover's Lane. I want you to kill me with that sweet pain. Then take me down your river. And if you hear me bawling, mother, rough me up in the kitchen, rough me up in the morning, rough me up in the bathroom, rough me up in the bedroom. Long time me ain't get no loving. Time you hit the bed, you're snoring. Lord, boy, you got food in the kitchen. Can't do a thing. This is the last time I'm telling you. So decide just what you gonna do. Boy, you listen, if you cannot control the beat, I call in the neighbor to eat. Boy, I grind it. This time this smooth like a red apple. The woman be like a cup apple. She really look good for true. She give me pain in me testicle, 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 testicle. Say I want more entertainment. So if you know that you important, go find the nearest doctor or buy Viagra. Then take me down Sandala. And when the music's over, let's go in John Castle. Down in them house table. Oh, rough me up. Rough me up. Lord, and rough me up. Rough me up. Then let's go down your river. And if you hear me bawling murder, take me down Lover's Lane. I want you to kill me with some sweet pain. Rough me up, rough me up in the bedroom, rough me up in the backyard, rough me up in the front yard. Long time me ain't get no love it. Time you hit the bed, you snoring.
You were just listening to Rough Me Up by King Miko. He is Crefton Warner, as he is more commonly known. And his stage name is King Miko. He was awarded an MBE, member of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire, for his contribution to calypso and musical development in and around St Kitts and Nevis, and of course around the region. King Miko, also formerly known as Mighty Miko, is regarded as one of Nevis's legendary calypsonians, with the second most Culturama crowns. He was first crowned Calypso King in 1978 and went on to win 8 more crowns. King Miko won in 1982, 1985, 1991, 1994, 97, 99, 2001, and 2004. And some of his most popular songs are Nation Building, Nevis Nice, Nevis Still Nice, The Darkest Hour, My Country, In Times Like These, and We Love a Festival, which was a collaboration with Delhi Ranks out of the core band. So that was just King Miko with one of my favorite tunes. We're now going to hear from This and That, King This and That, The Journey of a King. Today I feel like playing, some calypso music and honoring our local homegrown talent. This is Black History Month, and we have to honor and pay tribute to our own first before we can go out there and pay tribute to others. I hope you're enjoying the program. Stay tuned and continue to listen to Voices right here on WINN FM 98.9. I'm your host, Devonne Cornelius.
The journey has begun. It is hard to achieve in this country. Believe me, my friends, it ain't easy. The obstacles that they're putting your way is hard to overcome. Struggles continue every day. You will fall if you ain't strong. And when you think that you have conquered all the problems you encountered, be wary. Be wary. Because the ones who trying to destroy you, still waiting to crucify you. Lord have mercy. Have mercy. They know you're working hard each day, but they don't give a damn. They want to make you pay for their failures and sufferings every day. But not me. I ain't backing down for anybody. All you tell them from me, I remain strong and standing tall. Tall, tall. This land has enough for everybody. All you listen to me, opportunities are there for all. So true, you will find your share once you keep searching. Never mind, the road ahead seems tough. All that grudge and envy you carrying, my brother, will never be enough to stop me from growing from strength to strength. Look at growing and growing. Determined with sheer commitment. Really satisfying my heart's content. Oh yes. Working for success. So true. In every contest. True, true. On my journey to further progress, and I wish the same for you, God bless. Oh yes. Oh yeah. Long ago in this land we encourage every woman and man in the village to accomplish their desired goals and make this country proud. We used to bless the heart and souls, then sang their praises loud. But nowadays all you get is pull down. The whole village now spitting venom like crazy. Like crazy. And they're praying for your demise and vex as soon as they realize you win bigly. Win bigly. The negatives that throw my way is like a stepping stone. I use it every day on my journey to face a brighter day. So you see, I ain't backing down for anybody. All you tell them from me, I remain strong and standing tall. Tall, tall. This land has enough for everybody. All you listen to me, opportunities are there for all. So true, you will find your share once you keep searching. Never mind, the road ahead seems tough. All that grudge and envy you carrying, my brother, will never be enough to stop me from growing from strength to strength. Look at growing and growing. Determined with sheer commitment. Really satisfying my heart's content. Oh yes. Working for success. So true. In every contest. True, true. On my journey to further progress, and I wish the same for you, God bless. Oh yes. sabotaging, you will remain. At the bottom of the table, right down there and watching people lifting their game. You better get your thinking right. Stop make enemies and let your light shine bright. Put away all that grudge, envy and spite from tonight, cause
I ain't backing down for anybody.
all you tell them from me,
I remain strong and standing tall.
tall, tall.
This land has enough for everybody.
All you listen to me,
Opportunities are there for all.
so true. You will find your share once you keep searching. Never mind, the road ahead seems tough. All that grudge and envy you carrying, my brother, will never be enough to stop me from
Growing from strength to strength.
look at growing and growing.
Determined with sheer commitment.
Really tell me,
Satisfying my heart's content.
oh yes,
Working for success
so true,
in every contest.
true, true. On my journey to further progress, and I wish the same for you, God bless. Oh yes. I hope all you get the message. The journey continues.
You were just listening to This and That, the journey of King. This and That began singing in 1974 when Culturama first came around. And since then, he has been releasing some great hits. That was the journey of King. And he has also won numerous crowns. And so This and That has made a very significant development, or this significant contribution rather, to the development of calypso and the musical development in a whole on the island of Nevis, and I say too here in St Kitts and Nevis. We will be hearing from the Mighty Shadow. The Mighty Shadow, and this one is an exciting one. After this, we're going to open the phone lines and we're going to have you be a part of the program and tell me what are some of your favorite calypso songs and some of your favorite calypsonians. So we'll just play this last one, Dingley, and we'll open the Mighty Shadow. Mighty Shadow. The name of the song is Dingley.
Music sweet, music sweet. The one who invented music has got to be very big, got to be the one who created the sun and the trees, rivers and seas. Music fills the world with happiness, plenty, sweetness, and togetherness. Music has no friends or enemies. Everybody could dingole, 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 dingole. Music is the atmosphere. Sweet music is everywhere. Even in the park, in the dark, a blind man can find a melody. Oh, yeah. Music fills the world with happiness, plenty sweetness and togetherness. Music have no friends or enemies. Everybody but dingole, 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 dingole. If your clothes tear up or your shoe goes up, you could still jump up when music plays. Old lady, young baby, everybody go dingole, 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 dingole. Ay, 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 ay. No, 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 no. Fantasy, energy. You don't need a bulldozer to become a composer. Every little part or a talk may help to construct a melody. Aye, aye, aye. Music fills the world with happiness, plenty sweetness and togetherness. Music have no friends or enemies. Everybody go dingole, 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 dingole. If your clothes tear up or your shoe burst up, you could still jump up when music plays. Old lady, young baby, everybody go dingole, 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 dingole. Ay, 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 ay. Amba, ya, 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 amba, ya, boy, ya,
You're listening to WINN FM 98.9. We're having a whole party here. Today is Friday, and we're paying tribute to some awesome Calypsonians. The phone lines are open, so you can call us at 466-0989-762 and 662. And, of course, we have our WhatsApp number where you can send a message, a comment, and be a part of our program today at 662-2204. You are listening to Voices. Let us take our first call. Good morning, caller. You are live.
Well, good morning, good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
Man, I hear giving God thanks and enjoying the culture.
Nice.
I like, what's your name again? No, those two divisions you played?
Yes, Miko and this and that.
Miko, I used to back Miko again. I used to back Miko. I like the song Nevis Nice.
Yes, yes.
And for this and that, God's Son. How you play? How you play God? You know the song God's Son, right?
Yes, let me take a note of that.
And I used to back Star Shield.
Mm.
He played the one about something in jail.
Mm-hmm.
Them up, you know. And well, I'm from the village, so you know. I used to back Sweeney against Eddie Max.
Uh-huh.
And Antigua, I like the song from Mandy and one Antigua, about Wait your hand and wait for me. You know that one?
I think
Man,
I
it's very interesting. I
I'd have
like
to hear that one. Not familiar with that
Oh,
one.
you must try and play it. I love Calypso that tell a story.
Yes, yes. It's
You know, not
you
too
listen to
vague.
this song and you know exactly what went down.
Yeah, man, not too vague, but I always love Calypso. That is our culture. So I want to big up to all the Calypsonians. I love most of them. I love Fancy too, you know, Fancy from Connery.
Mm-hmm.
He has one of the best voices in Calypso to me. Well, I'll tell you Socrates too, eh? But as for his daughter, Anastasia, she could sing. Well, but we don't do too badly, you know.
I think we're doing
Our
good.
Calypsonians and our songwriters, they do a very good job.
Yeah,
I want you to play for me when you get around to it. Wet your hand and wait for me. I forget, it's either short or obstinate. One of them sang it. A very interesting thing, you know, two women cussing. So I'm listening. So God bless you.
Yes, thank you so much. We are still taking your calls. Let's take this other call. Good morning, caller. Good morning. Good morning, caller. You are live on Voices.
Yeah, good morning, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, and you?
Pretty good. You can hear me loud and clear, right?
Yes, I can.
I just wanted to make sure of something. You just said Miko was awarded the MBE. Was that something that just happened?
No, that was a few years back. I believe it was in 2018, actually.
Oh, wow. First time I'm hearing about that because I knew this and that got it. But for myself personally, to just now hearing that Miko did get that award too, I just want to congratulate him.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, congratulations to both of them, him and this and that, and getting that MBE award. And, you know, I never really got to congratulating this and that, but I'm just sending a dual, you know, congratulations for both him and Miko for getting that award. So they're both in good company now.
Yes, man.
So, yeah, man, you know, from a fellow villager, Miko, man, congratulations on the MBE award. And I might be late in saying this, but as a fellow villager, you know, I just wanted to put that out there. And I want to mention one other person in Cotton Ground there who has been, you know, giving some great services to the community. A family member of mine, Jessica Scarborough. I wanted to really tell her to keep up the good work in the healthcare field. You know, the great contributions that she has made over the years there in the Federation.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish the people of St Kitts and Nevis all the best in the new year.
Great, man.
And you know, just to keep the awareness of the Black History Month, you know, that's a great thing you're doing there. There's a lot of stuff that we could talk about.
Definitely.
You know, the accomplishments of Black people, but I just want all Blacks everywhere to just enjoy this month of Black History Month. All right, thanks, man. That's my little sister for the day.
Yes, and thank you so much. Thank you so much for being a part of our program. You are listening to Voices right here on WINN FM 98.9. We are just 15 minutes away from the 12 o'clock hour. And, of course, you know, we pause at 12 for the midday news. We are paying tribute to our Calypsonians. Let's take this call. Good morning, caller. You are live on Voices.
Good morning, Devonne. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, and you?
I'm okay. Now, I've always liked Miko. And when I started to follow Miko music is from back in the 80s. Now, how I get to know Miko, a lot of people don't know, but him Nico, my brother, they all went off to Venezuela on an agriculture course back in the 80s. That's how I get to know Nico. But I always follow his music. I always like his music. I think he's like one of the best Calypsonians in the Federation. But I didn't hear you mention something this morning. I really, really want you to do this for me. Ginger. I rank Ginger way up there with a lot of these guys.
Ginger,
but I think he's one of the guys who a lot of people don't really put up there. But I think Ginger is one of the best. And he got a song that I really, well, two songs he got that I like to hear. There's one called Still Hanging In. And the one that I really want you to play, which is really funny to me, is a song called Those Were the Days. So if you get the time, could you please play that one for me? Thank you.
Thank you so much. We are still taking your calls. I hope I will have the time to play because Wet Your Hand and Wait for Me from Miss Henry, Nevis Nice, and then this one, Those Were the Days by Ginger. You are listening to Voices right here, WINN FM 98.9. I'm your host, Devonne Cornelius. And I will ask the technician to pull up Nevis Nice for me when he gets a chance. Nevis Nice by King Miko. And then we'll see if we could find Those Were the Days by Ginger. But just give me some time. So we're paying tribute. We have a call? Oh, let's take this call. Good morning, caller. You are live on Voices.
Yeah, good morning. Just a quick question. I won't stop if I'm doing what you want to do. Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, whatever happened to Mr. Bacchus? I haven't heard what happened. Why I don't hear it now. Could you answer that question for me, please? I'll listen out here.
Okay. Mr. Bacchus is doing quite fine. He just took some time, like every regular person from work, took some time off from work. But Mr. Bacchus is doing quite fine, and thank you so much for asking. He's doing well. He's alive and well, and he's giving thanks for life. You are listening to Voices, WINN FM 98.9. We are just about 10 minutes away from the 12 o'clock hour, and we are playing some nice, beautiful calypso music. The entire month of February is Black History Month, and so we are looking at our homegrown talent. Of course, we're going across the Caribbean region. Were we able to get Nevis Nice from this Miko? Sorry for the Miko fans, if you hear me. Miko, Nevis Nice, and then we have Those Were the Days by Ginger. We'll have to look up that one. In the meantime, we're still taking your calls at 466-0989, 762 and 662. And of course, you can send us a WhatsApp at 662-2204. Don't forget, we are live via Facebook, YouTube. You have the song? Great. So we're going to hear Nevis Nice by King Miko. Let's take the call first. Good morning, caller. You are live on Voices.
Hello?
Hi, good morning.
Yeah, you see that Ginger song Still Hanging In? You should play that one when they're talking about domestic violence against men, because some people think it don't happen. And that song has some real knockouts, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to know if some people stupid or something, because for all that the woman does, she put on the radio every man to every dead. I mean, and he's still hanging in, you know. So I dedicate that song to all the abused men.
Yes, thank you so much. We're going to hear Nevis Nice by King Miko.
Everybody talking about their country and how the native land is the best. complex world of constant changes. We kept the good things we always had, like loving the people that represent us, here in our home and even abroad. Many nations sit idly by, watch the heroes suffer and die, but we give our heroes respect and recognition. The small one there we're at the top, and we proudly carry the torch as the guiding light for those conquered by division. I say to my sister island St Kitts, now that you have accomplished that change, take example and follow me. Be like me, and we can share the same destiny. God bless our country, bless our native land. Grant us that courage to change the things we can, to keep progress in our land. We call it the land of our birth, a paradise here on earth. I know to some the duty can hurt, a paradise here on earth. But leave is nice, 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 leave is nice. Not all beauty the air so clean. Queen of the Caribbean, I feel so proud, man, I want to scream. Queen of the Caribbean, forward. Take it, take it. Give me, give me, give me.
You are listening to WINN FM 98.9. This is Voices. I just received a message via the WhatsApp which says, I would like to congratulate Nigerian-born Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala for taking the head of the World Trade Organization. With trading on the continent of Africa within the 54 states, this is taking shape on the continent. And I also received a request, would it be possible to hear Scars into Stars by Singing Jackie? Unfortunately, we are out of time as we are now at the 12 o'clock hour. But when we come back for the second half, I will see if I can slip in that one for you. It is Scars into Stars by Singing Jackie. Thank you so much for choosing WINN FM 98.9 for another edition of Voices with yours truly, Devonne Cornelius. We will now break at 12, or right now, actually, for the midday news. And when we return, we will have Mr. Larry Armony to have a conversation on Black history, the where it came from, the whole reason behind Black history, and all you need to know about Black History Month. Thank you so much for choosing WINN FM 98.9. Stay tuned and have a good lunch. I'll see if I could have one too. Stay safe.
You found the sound. 98.9. WINN FM.
We now bring you the WINN FM Headline News. The WINN FM Headline News is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, Carib Brewery, CNC Trading.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
We are faced with tough decisions every day, but choosing the right home or motor insurance shouldn't be one. You need fast claim settlement from a company that's been rooted for over 31 years. And don't forget the A Excellent rating by AM Best. Make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Reliable insurance that you can count on. Get a quote today for your home, motor, contents, and liability insurance needs. And make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance. Tomorrow secured. Local agents, Dalil Walwyn & Co. Limited. Telephone 465-2631 or 469-5303 for the Nevis office.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts, offering 24-hour nursing, therapeutic, and residential care for older adults? It's situated at Otley, 7 miles east of Vaste. Per hour, the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for health. 5525 or 465-8020. Or facility.com.
With the WIN Headline News, I am Kevon Brown.
And I am Devonne Cornelius.
Posts making the rounds on social media have been suggesting that access to hemodialysis treatment at the Joseph and France General Hospital has been limited. During the February 2nd edition of Leadership Matters, the question about access to dialysis machines came about, and in addressing the concern, Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris indicated he knew of no reason why anyone would be denied access to treatment. According to the Post, the accusation suggested that close to 5 persons had been denied access to dialysis treatment at the hospital. Dialysis is a treatment that filters and purifies blood using a machine which helps in balancing fluids and electrolytes when the kidneys cannot do the job. People who have suffered from kidney failure, extraction, or implantation require dialysis. Medical Chief of Staff at the Joseph and France General Hospital, Dr. Cameron Wilkinson, outlined the criteria for access to dialysis.
There are a number of criteria that were established to determine, and this was done way back in 2013, to determine who gets hemodialysis. And there is no one factor or no one criterion in this list of criteria that will eliminate someone from having dialysis. And so I just want to go through briefly what are the criteria. So age is important, and we start from the age of 10, and we have blocks of 10, like 10 to 20, 20 to 21, all the way up to 70 and over 70. We also look at what's called the glomerular filtration rate, which is a factor that determines the severity of the kidney failure. So if someone has a GFR of 30, they're treated medically, but persons who have a GFR between 15 and 20, those are persons who are considered for dialysis. Other criteria, we look at whether or not they have symptoms of kidney failure, like shortness of breath, hiccups, etc., and the type of kidney failure they have. If someone has acute kidney failure where the kidney fails suddenly and they just need some dialysis to tie them over before their kidneys recover. We also look at persons who would have donated a kidney to a relative so that they're only functioning with one kidney, and so these persons would be considered a higher priority. Persons also who may need dialysis while they are preparing for transplant, so they're just getting tied over until they go away for transplant. Those persons would be considered.
There are currently 30 patients who receive dialysis, and according to Wilkinson, it would take some 360 hours weekly for all 30 patients to receive treatment.
In 2014, we had a total of 3 patients who were requiring dialysis. Today, we have 30 patients, and so that's a tenfold increase in the number of persons needing dialysis over the last 6 years. Now, each person, when they go for dialysis, they require at least 3 treatments per week, and each treatment lasts approximately 4 hours. So with the 30 patients we have right now, that is 360 hours of dialysis per week. And if you do the calculation, 1 week has 168 hours. Therefore, the dialysis unit is actually running some long hours. They operate from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Daily from Monday to Saturday. And the only day that they have any downtime is Sunday when they do the recharging and cleaning, etc. We started initially with 4 machines and we moved to 6 as the demand increased, and there is plan to increase even further up to 8 machines to accommodate the increasing number of persons that require dialysis.
The dialysis unit initially started some 6 years ago, originally with 4 dialysis machines and upgraded to 6 machines. Dr. Wilkinson mentioned that to accommodate the number of people needing dialysis, there are plans to increase the number to 8 machines in the near future.
The Honorable Mark Brantley, Premier and Senior Minister of Health in the Nevis Island Administration, has publicly extolled retiring matron of the Alexandra Hospital, Aldris Diaz, and Assistant Matron Jessica Scarborough for their years of stellar service to Nevis's healthcare sector. During his weekly radio talk show On the Mark, which aired on February 3rd, 2021, the Premier expressed his gratitude and that of his administration for the 2 healthcare officials' contribution to the health of the Nevisian community. He said, "There is no language that I can employ. Words would not be sufficient to express the gratitude of my government and the gratitude of the people of Nevis to Matron Diaz and Assistant Matron Scarborough. They have served us with distinction." The Premier described Matron Diaz as a complete and compassionate professional. Premier Brantley also lauded Assistant Matron Scarborough's dedication to her field, highlighting her work in the fight against prostate cancer. Brantley also congratulated the new Matron Designate Chandrika Prasad Wallace and Assistant Matron Designates Diama Golden and Gracelyn Hanley. He first announced their imminent appointments during his monthly press conference on January 28, 2021.
MSR Media, the production company filming 1 year off on Nevis, has issued a casting call to select divisions for various roles in the movie. During the monthly premiere's press conference on January 28th, Premier Mark Brantley announced the 2-movie production deal between MSR Media and the Nevis Island Administration. Brantley said approximately $1 million would be directly injected into the local economy as a result of the cast and crew of the movie staying in Nevis for about 4 months. Producer of the film, Philip Martinez, said it is very important to him to have Nevisians featured in the movie.
I'm Philippe Martinez, the producer of the film 1 Year Off. In every film, the casting of the supporting artists who will appear in the film is a very exciting time. In this case, it is even more so, as this is a wonderful way to meet the people of Nevis. I insisted that we want to use the real people in the film. People who will appear in the film in their real jobs, such as sellers in the farmers market, shoppers, restaurant owners, bartenders, and so and so. It will be an absolute pleasure to introduce them to the new film industry in Nevis, and a wonderful way for us filmmakers to include the people of Nevis in the making of the film here. Thank you very much.
According to a release from the Nevis Island Administration, MSR Media is casting persons with previous acting or modeling experience for 3 speaking roles in the movie. The roles: Robin, a female 30 to 40 years old, Joseph, a male 25 to 30 years old, and Farah, a female 30 to 35 years old. They are also seeking extras, 40 to 50-year-old men and women ages 30 to 60 of diverse backgrounds for relaxed and fun scenes. 40 to 50-year-old local men and women, including farmers and vendors, for market scenes, and 40 to 50-year-old local men and women for beach bar scenes. Interested persons are asked to send a recent photo and contact information to marie@msrmedia.co.uk. That is marie@msrmedia.co.uk. In regional news,
this is the Carib Update News Service. I'm Wendy Chateau reporting. Barbados' Governor General in self-quarantine after someone associated with staff comes down with COVID. This is the big story we're tracking this hour on Friday, February 5, 2021. Details of this story and more straight ahead. Now for the details. Barbados' Governor General Dame Sandra Mason and Chief Justice Sir Patterson Cheltenham are both in self-quarantine after two people associated with their staff were exposed to the COVID-19 virus. Prime Minister Mia Mottley made the announcement in an unexpected appearance via Zoom during Thursday's COVID-19 management update, which was streaming live to the nation. Mottley said a member of the Governor General's staff tested positive for the virus. She and her family are in quarantine pending the results of a second test. The first was negative. As a result, everyone was removed from Government House so sanitizing could be done. Meanwhile, Sir Patterson did not require a COVID test because there was no direct contact. In his case, a close contact of someone who works with him is exhibiting symptoms of the virus. The Barbados government is offering rebates ranging from US $100 to US $350 per night to visitors who stayed in approved accommodations between last December 24 and January 31, 2021, whose second PCR COVID test took longer than 3 days to be processed. On Monday, the Barbados Tourism Investment Inc. reached out to affected visitors, inviting them to apply via a rebate application form published on its website. Grenada is scheduled to receive 45,600 COVID-19 vaccines under the COVAX facility, and delivery is estimated to begin later this month under the World Health Organization's emergency use listing procedure. According to the interim distribution forecast within the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, St. Vincent and the Grenadines is also scheduled to receive 45,600, Antigua and Barbuda 40,800, Dominica 28,800, St Kitts and Nevis 21,600, and St Lucia 74,400. The forecast document said that on average 3.3% of the total population of the 145 participating territories are receiving doses from at least one manufacturer. Two British territories on Thursday received 8,000 doses each of the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine via Public Health England. The vaccines were delivered to Anguilla and the British Virgin Islands via chartered flight, their precious cargo having arrived in the Caribbean Wednesday night via Antigua. Anguilla said it will begin its vaccination rollout on Friday. The British Virgin Islands indicated theirs will start next week. Other British territories in the region, including Bermuda, Cayman Islands, and Turks and Caicos, had already received initial doses a few weeks ago. In both Anguilla and British Virgin Islands, the territory's top officials, including Governor and Premier, were on hand for the arrival of the vaccines. They all hailed it as a significant development. This is Newsbreak from the Carib Update News Service. In more news, Taiwan on Friday blamed Chinese interference for preventing the establishment of a trade office with Guyana in what had been seen as a diplomatic victory just 24 hours earlier. The Foreign Ministry said China had exerted pressure on the South American country's government, and the agreement could not be salvaged despite considerable efforts. China's Foreign Ministry had responded swiftly to Thursday's announcement, demanding those concerned avoid setting up any official institutions with each other and to correct mistakes. China claims the island is its territory and exerts significant diplomatic pressure worldwide to pressure Taiwan, contending it has no right to official exchanges with any foreign governments or multinational organizations such as the United Nations. The Guyana facility was intended to focus on cooperation in areas like agriculture, education, and trade. Guyana said on Thursday that the facility would not lead to full diplomatic relations with Taiwan. In cricket, Bangladesh lead West Indies by 218 runs with 7 second innings wickets standing after the home team took a solid first innings lead on the third day of the first test at Chattogram. Resuming the day on 75 for 2, West Indies were eventually bowled out for 259 with a top score of 76 from Craig Brathwaite. Jermaine Blackwood made 68 and Joshua De Silva 42. But West Indies hit back late in the day, taking 3 early Bangladesh second innings wickets as the host ended 47 for 3. In spite of the early wickets, Bangladesh remain in the driver's seat. This has been another edition of Newsbreak from the Carib Update News Service, the Caribbean's newsroom. Reporting this hour, I am Wendy Chateau.
In news from Jamaica, the Cannabis Licensing Authority, CLA, says it is not aware of any shortage affecting the local regulated medical cannabis industry. This, the authority said, follows media reports of a ganja shortage on the island. According to Acting Senior Director of Operations, Faith Graham, the authority routinely monitors ganja inventory of licenses through the Enforcement and Monitoring section, and there is no evidence to indicate a shortage of ganja within the regulated space. There has been no such report from CLA. Licenses and checks made with licenses have confirmed that there is no shortage, she said. The authority assured the public that at this time there is no need for concern as relates to the availability of cannabis for medical, scientific, and therapeutic purposes.
We now bring you this international report.
The Republican Party has some decisions to make. In early January, the Capitol was stormed by Trump supporters. 5 people died, including a police officer. A month on, Donald Trump faces an impeachment trial again, this time accused of inciting this violence. And whether guilty or not, this is a man who repeatedly undermined America's election, who received more than 70 million votes, and whose son sees it like this.
This isn't their Republican Party anymore. This is Donald Trump's Republican Party.
The world is watching what the Republicans do about Trump. This impeachment trial is the Democrats seeking to sanction him, despite him having left office. And on impeachment, the Republicans are nothing if not consistent. This was from the first trial in 2019.
I'm not an impartial juror. This is a political process. There's not anything judicial about it. Impeachment is a political decision.
And once again, many Republicans appear to have made up their minds.
I'll be brief. I oppose this article of impeachment and I yield back.
For a guilty verdict, 17 of them will need to vote with the Democrats, and that looks unlikely because this is a story of the backlash that didn't last. In the aftermath of the Capitol, Republicans took turns to condemn the president.
The president bears responsibility for Wednesday's attack on Congress by mob rioters.
I think the president's rhetoric was irresponsible. I think it was reckless, and I don't think it was remotely helpful.
All I can say is count me out. Enough is enough.
And remember Mitch McConnell saying he wouldn't be an impartial juror? Well, in the aftermath of the Capitol, the New York Times reported that he was open to impeachment. And Liz Cheney, the number 3 Republican in the House of Representatives, voted to impeach. Republicans begin turning on Trump, Politico told us. But most didn't do so for long. By late January, senior Republican Kevin McCarthy was visiting Donald Trump to talk about the midterm elections. Despite Trump's attacks on American democracy, he remains part of Republicans' thinking. And not for the first time, people are asking, where is the limit for Republicans? It's a question they're asked because of Trump and because of newly elected Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. She supported the QAnon conspiracy theory about Satan-worshipping pedophiles. She's promoted conspiracy theories about 9/11, about school shootings being staged, about body doubles being used on the Supreme Court, about the 2018 California wildfires being ignited by Jewish space lasers. And that's not even a comprehensive list. And this was the message from the party's leadership after a meeting on her future.
This Republican Party is a very big tent. Everyone's invited in.
To that, Republican Senator Mitt Romney says our big tent is not large enough to both accommodate conservatives and kooks. But Arguably, that's exactly what's already happened. Donald Trump has spent years pushing unsubstantiated conspiracy theories, from Barack Obama not being born in America, to wind turbines causing cancer, to this election being stolen. Once you've chosen him as president, where do you go? Well, Liz Cheney gave her answer when she voted to impeach Donald Trump. But after that, there was a push to oust her from the party, including from Donald Trump Jr. Well, she survived that.
It was a very resounding acknowledgement that we need to go forward together and that we need to go forward in a way that helps us beat back the really dangerous and negative Democrat policies.
This, though, isn't really about policy. What we're seeing is a battle about boundaries, about what is and isn't politically acceptable. But to what degree is that battle really about Trump? This Time article argues Trumpism will live on not because of his hold on the party, but because of what the party had become long before he came to town. But for years there has been the idea that Trump isn't really who Republicans are. Have a listen to Mitch McConnell.
The mob was fed lies. They were provoked by the president and other powerful people.
But if that's the case, why is the party still dealing with him now? It may be a straight political calculation that keeping Trump on side helps, but it could also be about something more fundamental. This is the Congressman Adam Kinzinger.
The Republican Party has lost its way. If we are to lead again, we need to muster the courage to remember who we are. We need to remember what we believe and why we believe it.
But perhaps it's not that the party has forgotten, more that some of its leaders haven't reconciled with what it's become. This is the Congressman Matt Gaetz.
Right now there's an identity crisis in the Republican Party. There are some in Washington who believe that we've got to purge Trumpism and we've got to do whatever is necessary to get back in the good graces of the corporate PACs that have sworn off some Republicans. I take a different view.
Trump's impeachment matters. Arguably, what follows matters more. We're about to find out what the Republican Party stands for. The nature of American democracy is directly tied to that outcome.
With the rising ocean comes a tide of human waste suffocating Senegal's coastline. Tangled plastic bottles, the remains of an old TV set, a shoe, and diapers mangled in fishing nets. Everyday items brought by the Atlantic, choking the Sine Saloum mangrove.
We are cleaning up, pulling what we can out of the mangrove and burning it. But there's just so much to do.
Joining this cleanup effort is the Minister of Petroleum and Energy in what some may see as a public relations stunt. Senegal has just started the construction of a commercial port and steps are underway to start offshore extraction of oil and gas. Already, a quarter of the mangrove has been destroyed from the existing pollution. Part of it was turned into the capital's dump site.
Periodically each month, we and young people will come to take the waste and the plastic to the factories nearby that today in Senegal process it to produce power.
Seeped in brackish water, the trees store salt in their leaves, trap carbon emissions like no other plants, filtering out pollutants, burying them in sediments. This rainforest by the ocean acts as a natural embankment. Deep in this maze live the endangered Atlantic humpback dolphin and the western reef heron. The stagnant murky water is filled with malaria-transmitting mosquitoes, and snakes make it dangerous for human habitation.
Up until now, plants and rare species of animals thrived in this environment because it is so inhospitable to humans. But climate change is changing all of that. Rising temperatures and the rising ocean is altering this precious ecosystem, slowly killing the animals and the mangrove itself.
This is what is to come, warn environmentalists, if we don't do enough to stop the pollution and clean up our oceans. Nicholas Hawk, Al Jazeera, the Sine Saloum Delta, Senegal.
The early morning rush at Pasar Senen, one of Jakarta's busiest stations. These passengers are among the first to try Indonesia's new COVID-19 breathalyzers.
Compared to the antigen rapid test and the PCR test, this test is a lot cheaper and more simple.
The scientists behind the Genos device say it can smell COVID-19 on the breath in just 2 minutes. Without getting a negative result, these passengers can't board the train. The devices will be used at public sites around the country, but scientists warn it shouldn't replace PCR testing.
Genos is a screening tool. If someone has a positive result, it should be confirmed with a PCR, but if they test negative, there's no need to.
The test costs around $1, much cheaper than a PCR test, which can cost up to $100 at some hospitals. But some epidemiologists say this is yet another misguided step by Indonesian authorities.
Some health experts are critical of this new method of testing. They say Indonesia's healthcare is in crisis and the country is stuck in a relentless first wave of COVID-19 cases. The government focuses on increasing PCR testing rather than rolling out cheaper and less accurate options.
We have to focus on increase the capacity for PCR testing, or if not, just choose to improve the capacity for rapid test antigen testing.
Indonesia conducts around 40,000 PCR tests each day and has a test positivity rate of almost 30%. Last week, the country surpassed 1 million confirmed cases, but experts fear the real number is much higher. More than a year into the pandemic, some health workers feel the government has let them down on two fronts, by failing to invest in more testing and by not having strict COVID-19 restrictions in place.
I don't really know why the testing is still lacking in Indonesia. It's so important, and we're still seeing people traveling and gathering at the stations. If it continues this way, COVID-19 will stay here, even next year.
10 of Dr. Ernie's patients have died, and she fears the situation will worsen as overwhelmed hospitals are forced to reject patients. The Health Ministry did not respond to Al Jazeera's request for an interview. Jessica Washington, Al Jazeera, Jakarta.
That was the WINN FM headline news, brought to you by KDP Enterprises, Caribbean Alliance, Carib Brewery, CNC Trading, The Grange.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built non-governmental healthcare organization on St Kitts, offering 24-hour nursing, therapeutic, and residential care for older adults? It's situated at Otley, 7 miles east of Vastair in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodation to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020, fax 466-8221, or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com, or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
We are faced with tough decisions every day, but choosing the right home or motor insurance shouldn't be one. You need fast claim settlement from a company that's been rooted for over 31 years. And don't forget the A Excellent rating by AM Best. Make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Reliable insurance that you can count on. Get a quote today for your home, motor, contents, and liability insurance needs, and make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance. Tomorrow secured. Local agents, Dalil Walwyn & Co. Limited. Telephone 465-2631 or 469-5303 for the Nevis office.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is WINN FM.
Welcome back to Voices right here on WINN FM 98.9. I'm your host for this afternoon, Devonne Cornelius. And this afternoon we are being joined by Mr. Larry Armony. He is the formerly a manager, the general manager of the Brimstone Hill Society. He officially retired in 2008, and he is a founding member of the Okolo Tegramantine Arts Theatre 1973, as well as the St. Christopher Heritage Society, now the National Trust, 1989. And he's currently a small farmer, Calypsonian, and he's married with 2 children. So this is Mr. Larry Armony, and we will be focusing on, of course, Black history. This is Black History Month. We'll be looking at the origins, the relevance, and we will be exploring the topic, and I look forward to a very fruitful and healthy discussion right here on WINN FM 98.9 for another edition of Voices. I will now allow Mr. Armony to head right into his presentation, and of course, later on in the program, we will entertain some calls for you to be a part of the discussion, where you can share your comments, your questions, and add a thing or two. You are listening to Voices here on WINN FM 98.9. Mr. Armony?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I first wish to applaud the pioneering efforts and sustained efforts of WINN FM to promote discourse on an array of topics which tend to abet development, individual and personal, because they provide insights and knowledge and information. And you also engage other persons to share their ideas. So I applaud you for this wonderful and pioneering initiative.
Thank you.
And I'm happy to be part of that, although, if truth be told, I would rather sing than talk. As I understand the topic, Black History Month, we're now just about beginning the second phase of this discussion. So I have to assume that during the early stage, you looked at the question of the origins of Black History Month, what it means. Is there, for example, a White History Month or Yellow History Month? and its relevance to the Caribbean and St Kitts and Nevis. So I will just touch lightly on these, and then I will attempt to make a comparative analysis with the status of Black people, people of African descent in the Caribbean, in North America, particularly the United States, and the Americas as a whole, and elsewhere. It was in 1926 that Carter Woodson, a historian and a member of an organization that he founded, launched Negro History Week. And his purpose was, the main emphasis in that early period was to promote the teaching of Black history in the public school system in the US. The idea caught on, and so year after year, Black History or Negro History Week was celebrated. And in 1969, I think it was, it morphed into Black History Month because, the activities were so multifarious and so interesting. And during the bicentennial of the United States country, it was President Gerald Ford who officially acknowledged and authorized, in a sense, the celebration of Black History Month. From the United States, it has spread to other places in the UK and in Canada in 1986 and 87 respectively, I think. Black History Month was established because there's a large Caribbean and or indeed African community in the UK and in Canada, and so it was established there, and it has been established in the Caribbean, maybe not on an official level, but certainly in the consciousness of the people. There's a Black History Month, so every year the schools and all that, organize activities to commemorate Black History Month. So Black History Month was found to be essential, and I should add here that since the inception of Black History Month, you have other ethnic and national groups in the United States who have their Heritage Month as well. So it was initiated by this Black History Month idea. So I suppose that partially answers the question: is there a white, and is it because you have the Polish history, you have the Polish Heritage Day, the Irish, the Jewish, the Native American, and even other causes like gay rights and so on. They have their days of commemoration as well. So the Black History Month, or the celebration of an event, and of course, its relevance, I think, can be readily ascertained, especially in the light of the other native, other national and ethnic celebrations, that it promotes a sense of identity amongst the participants, and it also promotes a greater understanding in the larger, multicultural, heterogeneous society that is the United States of America. In the United States of America, emancipation of enslaved Africans came about in 1865, and that period was immediately followed by a period of what is termed Reconstruction, in which laws and statutes were enacted to provide for the equal rights of the former enslaved Africans. But what happened was that slavery, which had become entrenched in the deep South, that is the southern states, which in fact had fought for their secession from the United States of America, and one of the main issues was the question of slavery. The southern states were mainly agricultural, and during that period of history, because of the Industrial Revolution, there was a widespread demand for cotton goods, which was cheap, provided cheap clothes for the world's populations, if you will. And so there was this trade, and cotton was in great demand, but cotton demanded cheap labor, or so it was felt. And so enslaved Africans were imported into the society for many, many years during this period to support the cotton industry. And of course, the cotton gin had been invented. So the southern states was an agricultural enclave, if you will, which depended altogether on agriculture, cotton as well as tobacco, whereas the northern states were industrial. Industrialization and commerce were the main foci. So that as the United States was being developed, and states, and you had a war with Mexico, and they had won, the United States had won certain territories and so on. So as states were becoming incorporated, and because the northern states did not really have that dependence upon large gangs of cheap labor, they tended, because of course the precedents had been established elsewhere. You had the Haitian Revolution, you had in 1791, you had emancipation in the Anglophone Caribbean and elsewhere in the British colonial empire, And so there was this thrust, and of course you had the French Revolution, which proclaimed equality, liberty, fraternity, although Napoleon came around and reintroduced slavery. And so there was this strong imperative for, you know, the freeing up, because if you did not do it and control the freedom, then things can get out of hand. So the northern states tended to support the notion of the freedom of African people, whereas the southern states, the deep southern states, held on tenaciously to it. And so even though the South lost this civil war and basically came back into the fold of the United States, they still had strong feelings about their role and the role of Africans in their community, their society. So that even though Reconstruction tried to foster equality of opportunities and so on amongst the African population, the South resisted and suppressed the freedoms of African Americans in the South. And there followed a period called Jim Crow, in which the southern states actually passed laws to suppress the rights, and because they could not accept the equality, as a matter of fact, even the United States Supreme Court, in a famous decision, when there was an enslaved African who was taken to a northern state, and when his owner died, he sued for his freedom, and the matter went to the Supreme Court. The name of this guy was Dred Scott, and the United States Supreme Court ruled that Africans were not American citizens, and therefore they had no rights, even though, of course, the Reconstruction period had established that they would now have rights. So there was this. And what in fact happened then was that every effort was made to suppress the rights and the freedoms of the former slaves. And there were certain migrations, I mean, towards the early part of the 20th century. There was a mass migration of Africans to the north, so they can have better opportunities and so on. And this was followed after the war, because during the war, I mean, many African Americans volunteered to serve in the interests of world peace, against fascism and oppression, and went in European theaters of war and elsewhere in the East to fight America's wars. But the armies were segregated. And so when these soldiers came back home, they discovered that, you know, that they went to fight for the freedom of other people, but they were not free themselves. So there was this build-up, and in order to assert their rights over black people, Africans were demonized and brutalized. And that was the period of Jim Crowism, the period when lynchings took place. You only have to suspect an African for looking at your woman, your wife or your daughter, and he was gone. Next thing, he's tied behind. He's found tied around a tree, and lynchings and so on were rife. And in fact, there were more lynchings by paramilitary agencies than by the Ku Klux Klan, because they were supported and abetted by the authorities. So that what happened then was that Africans felt uncomfortable because they couldn't protect themselves. They were forbidden to carry arms. They couldn't even protect themselves and their families. And so this is the kind of thing that was pervasive in Southern society. And in the North, even though there was some degree of freedom, at the same time, the most menial jobs were the ones open to them. And so there was a movement to ameliorate this situation, the civil rights movement, because segregation in the South was endemic. You could not be in the same place as whites in a public space. And when, after a young guy, as a teenager, he was in his community, on his own business, and he was captured. He had disappeared, and then his lynched body was found somewhere else. And then shortly after that, Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on the bus, and so the civil rights movement was formed. And the civil rights movement sought to bring about legal means to attain the human rights and justice for African Americans. And it achieved a great deal of success. There was a lot of organization in the Selma, the march from Selma to Montgomery, the capital of Alabama, for example, some 40-something miles, when hundreds, thousands of people took part in the march. They were attacked along the way, and I think it was only during the latter part of the march that the federal government saw fit to provide some kind of protection for them. And then, of course, the boycott of buses, and which was devastating for the industry. But in order to introduce that boycott, the African American community had to organize. They organized transportation. They organized all kind. It was a very structured and organized approach to resistance. And I should say that, in a sense, the civil rights movement and their philosophy of active passivity, if you will, is something of an outgrowth from one of the ways in which enslaved Africans dealt with their condition, not only in America but elsewhere in the Caribbean. In St Kitts, for example, and all these small islands of the Caribbean, slave insurrections were not sustainable because the islands were so small. The enslaved Africans had nowhere to go to establish their own way of life. It wasn't like in the cockpit country in Jamaica where you had these, convoluted mountains in the cockpit country here,
right,
where you could hide and you can resist. And so, one way or mechanism for coping with enslavement was through passive resistance, through sabotage, and through disobedience, and so on. And so the civil rights movement came upon methodologies of civil disobedience, that is to say, you disobey laws which you considered unjust. But it was a struggle, and it culminated, in a sense, in the Civil Rights Act of 1965. But even then, white America felt they were empowered to suppress African Americans, and the violence against them continued. So the Black History Month was a focus for galvanizing resistance towards this kind of oppression. After the assassination of Martin Luther King, you had a period when many blacks now were saying, well, hey, what's the point of all this passive resistance? We're getting brutalized and beaten up, and dogs tearing us to pieces, and the lynchings are still going on. And what's going on here? We need this is not working. And so you had the Black Power movement, which arose. So all of these were responses to endemic racism, and also the sense of white Americans that they should not really be surrendering or ceding any kind of control or authority to blacks. And so you had a period when the Black Panther movement arose, for example, and you had militant, the Nation of Islam. Even though the Nation of Islam was militant in rhetoric, their methodologies were tended to be peaceful. And you had a Black Power movement, and this emerged in the 1960s. And this Black Power movement resonated with African people of African descent elsewhere, in England, in the UK, in the Caribbean. And so Caribbean leaders, political leaders, even though they were they were from the majority ethnic group in the main, even emancipation had already taken place, were very uncomfortable with this movement because Africans were not, the former slaves were not content with just, the legal freedom, so to speak, but with the oppression, the oppression of poor wages and terrible working conditions, unsanitary conditions in which to live, landlessness, homelessness. And so these were the issues that were addressed or fought for in the Caribbean, which, as you know, in St Kitts, led to the Buckley's Uprising in 1935. So the Black Power movement, but even after all of that, there was now, shall we say, a growing middle class in the Caribbean, and all of this came out of the Buckley's riots. In a sense, they were in a sense fallout, because after the Buckley's riots, with the number of commissions of inquiries that were established, health and sanitation were improved, education opportunities were made more widespread, and so on. So now you had a growing sense of awareness and a yearning as well for an understanding of themselves as an African people. And in the Caribbean, the movement, therefore, there was a movement towards self-affirmation as Africans. And there were many Africans, Afro-Caribbean people, who resisted this as well, because that is what oppression does to you, to your psyche. You come to feel that it was ordained, that this is how it is, that you have to go along, that it is right. As Aimé Césaire, the Martinican poet and politician as well, remarked, in his book Return to His Native Land, he says there's a negritude in which people believe that they're inferior, right? That by being a Negro, right, they were endemically inferior and could not escape that. In fact, there was no desire to escape. It was an acceptance. So there were others who said, no, we can't do that. And so there was this movement in the Caribbean. In St Kitts, for example, when Okolo Tegumentine was founded, we were celebrating the African heritage because all of these things had been suppressed. And many of our people were resistant to the notion, of Africans with having the capacity to affirm their own identity. And there was resistance to the drumming and the dance and the chanting and all that. But at the same time, there was acceptance. It was a mixed situation. There were those who welcomed and applauded these kinds of initiatives, and there are those who castigated, these efforts. And this is what happened in these islands. But gradually, people came around to understanding. And as the Caribbean nations developed, they now politically began to embrace the African heritage. And so therefore it came to a situation where when the Okolo dancers and drummers were frowned upon and even demonized on the political platform, it came around to a situation now where these very governments would embrace them and send them abroad on cultural missions, to the diaspora, the St Kitts and Nevis diaspora in the UK, in Canada, and so on, to perform. And you had Carrie Festa and these regional celebration of the arts emerging and so on. And so therefore the Caribbean came to accept. The acceptance is not total. The Rastafarian movement had a large role to play in this sensitizing of the people into the into the African roots of our heritage, and so the the struggle continues. But I will stop here because I realize that I think I'm getting out of hand now.
Well, I must say, Mr. Armony, I've been enjoying your presentation, and I think I have learned much. Very, very good presentation. And of course, for those who are listening by the different platforms, of course, via radio, I think it's a history class for them too, because you said a few things that I myself did not know. And so, again, it's a learning experience for me. And, as you're talking about Black History Month, I know around this time a number of activities are held within the communities, within schools, and the Ministry of Education here on St. Kitts and Nevis. They would organize programs and ceremonies and different activities to basically bring about awareness and to celebrate the month of Black History. Now, my question basically is, have you been a part of any program where you would make a presentation similar to that one in any of the schools to share your knowledge and basically to provide an insight on Black history?
Well, what I would say is that the St. Christopher Heritage Society did initiate a number of actions to promote greater knowledge, understanding, awareness, appreciation of the African heritage. But in doing this, the St. Christopher Heritage recognized that the heritage of St. Kitts and Nevis was a multicultural, multi-ethnic heritage. And therefore, there had been a tendency in some places and in some movements to be segregationists, as well as promoting the heritage of Africans to, as it were, exclude others from this. And so the St. Christopher Heritage Societies was concerned with promoting a greater sense of national identity, but in the process recognized that a substantial part of that national identity was African derived. And so it set about organizing for activities in terms of the museum displays that it mounted and so on. And in terms of raising this consciousness of the African heritage, most of these actions on the part of the St. Christopher Heritage Society, the National Trust, took place around emancipation. We felt that emancipation was the meaning of emancipation was lost. Many of us grew up with a holiday on the first Monday in August, which we call August Monday. You had horse racing at ponds, you had a racetrack at ponds, you had picnics all over the place and so on. But people did not really know what they were celebrating. And so we felt that we needed to bring this back around. We were celebrating emancipation. And so many of the activities which the Heritage Society had, having museum displays, in fact, we had a number of different activities during the month of August, we had an ecumenical service. We had a thing in the square, an ecumenical service in the square, and so on. But maybe when it comes to emancipation, I'll talk more about these things. But I'm trying to answer your question honestly. And then when I became, involved with the management as general manager of the Brimstone Hill Society, the president of the society promoted the notion of a History and Heritage Month. Well, first of all, it was a History and Heritage Week. Sir Proban Innes, and his reasoning was the same. We need to kind of focus, we need to kind of, as it were, promote a greater understanding and so on of the history and heritage of our country.
Right.
And so he went to his council, the board, if you will, of the Brimstone Society, which accepted his vision. And so there's a History and Heritage Week. And when we looked at when is the best time to have this History and Heritage Week, all of the indicators pointed to the month of February. You see, because in terms of the school, we wanted to reach young people, and we felt that we couldn't do it during the school holidays. The best time to do it, we felt, was, and in fact, many of the educators who formed that early committee felt that February was the best time. But it coincides with Black History Month. So that in terms of my efforts to promote greater awareness and knowledge and understanding and appreciation and so on, in the later period, I should say, I use that advisedly, because earlier in the 1970s and 80s, I was very much involved with the Okola Tegromantine Arts Theatre, and we had a number of activities throughout the year, because it wasn't just a month. We, for example, had a African Liberation Day. We initiated, the commemoration of African Liberation Day by concerts in the square, and then the Rastafarian movement took that over after some years. So there was where my focus lay. And then with the Heritage Society now, the focus now was on emancipation. And then now, as I became general manager, I had to, in a sense, implement the decisions of the president of the society, whom I was responsible to, and the board. And so I became very much immersed in the History and Heritage Week. So, yes, so over the course of the years, I have made presentations on Black history and on the condition of African Americans and all that. But they have not been tied to Black History Month, really. So, there were some who felt that there was a conflict between Black History Month and History and Heritage, but there's no conflict, really. We can have multiple identities. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I'm an African, but I'm also a Caribbean. And you can be a Nevisian, but also somebody who supports your country, St Kitts and Nevis. Right. Or you could support the Newtown football team, to the point of argument and all that. But at the end of it all, you're supporting a national team. So we can have multiple identities, and which are not necessarily mutually exclusive. And yes, so I support my African heritage, but I also support my Caribbean heritage. And I think that all of these celebrations and commemorations are important, because it enhances an understanding of self and understanding of country.
Mm-hmm, great. And what I wanted to ask you too, Mr. Armony, with the celebrations that we're having now for Black History Month, or in the recent time, let me say, from last year, year before, and how people, not just here in St. Kitts and Nevis, but worldwide, how people celebrate, or let me not say bring awareness to, but also celebrate Black History Month. Do you see, or have you seen a difference between 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and now? Do you think more persons are understanding the importance of Black History Month, or showing more appreciation to Black History Month?
Well, if you look at the United States of America, you've had, decades of Black History Month, but the oppression still continued. And times have changed. New technologies have been introduced, but there are certain things which seem to have remained constant. And I'm referring to the United States because that is where it started. That is where the movement started, and that is where it generated satellite movements elsewhere in the diaspora. So you want to bring about a greater sense of ethnic pride among your people, but you want also to advocate equal rights and humanity. When I say humanity, I mean, I was reading an interview the other day that Cicely Tyson, recently deceased, she is a division parentage, an outstanding actress, and she was being interviewed after a film, Sounder, which was a very, very highly acclaimed film, in which she played the wife of a sharecropper in the U.S. South, and their family. He for stealing something to feed his family, and after he came out of prison, so it was a very touching story because it was about African Americans, and heretofore there were not many of these kind of depictions. Most often stories that were filmed that portrayed African Americans they were in menial roles or as entertainers. But this film was different in that it was about a real family and their lifestyle. And she recounted that she was being interviewed by a white reporter who said to her that one of the things that made him uneasy about this film was when the father, which is her husband in the film, was addressed by his son as daddy. So she said, what made you? He said, well, daddy, So she so she said to him, yes, do you have children? He said, yeah. I said, what do they call it? They said, daddy. And he didn't see anything peculiar about the fact that his children called him daddy, but these black children called their father daddy. And she recognized then that, look, in my role as an actress, I have to be selective in doing the films that will present the humanity of African Americans, because white Americans do not understand this. They do not think that we are human, And more recently, in Time magazine, there was an interview with Amanda Gorman by Michelle Obama, and she asked Amanda about this question of acceptance and so on, and she said, I'm going to quote. This is what Amanda Gorman is telling her: despite our best attempts, we are criticized for never being put together enough. But when we do, we're too showy. We're always walking this tentative line of who we are and what the public sees in us. So there is this widespread and deep-seated perception on the parts of many people in the U.S. that blacks are somehow not quite at their level of humanity. So what I'm saying then is that despite Black History Month and the achievements of the civil rights movement and the achievements in law, there is still this pervasive thing. And not only that, it exists not only in the U.S., it exists elsewhere in the world. It's almost like a universal thing. Because you have to understand that the culture of many whites in Europe and elsewhere is a culture in which they are immersed in their history, in their literature, in their music, in their arts, into the notion of the inferiority of blacks. And therefore, they sometimes they had to be shaken out of this feeling, you understand? And that is why you have Black History Month, and that is why you have Black Lives Matter and all that, because, you know, it is felt it is okay to kill a black person, you know, innocently, because, you know, and I think it was William Shakespeare in one of his plays says, we hate that which we fear. And there's this fear amongst whites that once black people are treated equally and have equal rights, that their dominance will necessarily be undermined. And so therefore, they hate, that is their response. And they cling on to hold to these privileges. So that, to get back to your answer, to get back to your question, the answer is that despite the achievements and the gains, and there have been achievements, despite all of that, and the achievements, I mean, and the COVID-19 lockdown might have been a contributing factor as well to the Black Lives Movement thing, because people would had nothing to do. And so they listened and they participated, and a lot of other Americans came on board because they came to understand that they were living in a society in which they were privileged and empowered. And so within the past 10 years, if you're looking at St Kitts and Nevis, maybe you can't say that there has been any significant change, but in the United States, there has been in the past 10 months. And in Europe, in England, in fact, the Black Lives Movement thing is a universal phenomenon, because there are many countries in the world, in the East as well, Far East, which did not think that they had a black problem, which now realize that they do. So it's an ongoing process. It's an ongoing process, and I think that amongst the Afro-Caribbean population in St Kitts, there's a certain, shall we say, mixed response. There are some people who still don't really want to hear anything about black and about Africa. Mm-hmm. There are people who say, I'm not an African. And I suppose that a lot of that has to do with what they see in the news and what they perceive is happening in Africa. And I have to say, we don't really have time to dwell on this. But Africa has also been a situation of oppression and colonization. And colonization is a process by which you persuade the colonized people that they're inferior and that they have to look up to you as the master and the lord of all. And this has also been pervasive in Africa, and a lot of that can explain a lot of what is happening in Africa after the mad scramble when Europeans went in there for the minerals. But we don't have time to deal on this. But the fact of the matter is that there's a greater awakening, I think, within the past, I said 10 months, you said 10 years, but within the past 10 months, there's been a greater awakening. And I mean, look at a country like Brazil, for example, where over 50% of the population are black, and where they continue to be brutalized, you know, and so on. And I feel that in the next decade or so, there are things that's going to happen in Brazil, you know. People are going to discover their strength, their political strength, and they're going to use the laws and the elections and all that to really bring about change. So that it's a process that continues. But I think there are incremental changes, yes. But looking at it from a local standpoint, I think that we have come a very, very, very long way. And if I can just close with a little anecdote, for a short time, very short time, I was an interpreter on board a vessel that sailed the northern Caribbean between Antigua and St. Martin, stopping off at each island. So it was a very small, it was not a big cruise ship. It was an Nantucket cruiser, they call it. It's based upon, the intercoastal travel in the U.S. So you had a complement of maybe 50 crew and a total of 100 passengers. But the people who took this trip were mostly upmarket people. They were wealthy. In fact, the cost of a cruise from where they tell you is cost more than on the regular big cruise ship. And so I picked up the vessel in Antigua. And when we came to St. Kitts, I'm the interpreter. I'm supposed to be telling them about the history and culture of the islands that we're stopping at. So as I'm walking with them through Bastille, I couldn't help but be bemused at the reaction of these people. Now, these are wealthy North Americans. In fact, the first group were alumni of Johns Hopkins University, which is one of the elitist universities in the U.S.
Yes.
And these are professional people, doctors, lawyers, and business people, and so on. And as we're looking through Boston, I'm walking with them. They are totally fascinated, right? Because they are seeing black people in a way that they'd never seen them. I mean, it's a small town. It is not a big city like in New York City. But they are walking through and they're seeing people going to work and going to school and going to shop and doing things. All of them are black people, and they are busy and they're doing things. And they obviously control things because they're business people as well, and they're proprietors and so on. And they were amazed at this, right? And when we're driving on the bus for an island tour, and we're passing the school children in their uniform, they're craning their heads and they're looking back, looking at these things and say, so do you have an education system here? So we in the Caribbean, the Anglophone Caribbean, and indeed the wider Caribbean as a whole, I mean, there are differences. We have come a long way because our history really, in a sense, has been very different. And indeed, many of the pioneers in the civil rights movement and in the black awareness consciousness movement in the United States have Caribbean roots.
Mm-hmm. Great.
So that is all I was saying.
And thank you so much, Mr. Armony. Let us take a short break to hear from our sponsors real quick. And when we return, we will open the phone lines to hear from the listeners. Let's hit
Found the Sound 98.9.
Get ready for an exciting year with Flow Broadband and TV connecting you at home. Sign up now and get a free Samsung tablet worth over $900. Up to 100 megabits per second blazing internet will keep everyone on top of everything every day. While Flow TV delivers the best home entertainment with the latest shows on demand in HD plus favorites you can record. Visit your nearest Flow store today to sign up for Flow Broadband and TV and get your free Samsung tablet. Conditions apply.
You better power up in February at Horsford's Value Mart IGA. Yes! In February, we are giving you 3 ways to power up. 1. Power up for your Value Club points in February. Yes! For the first time ever, every Value Club customer will earn double point on all Value Club purchases at Value Mart in St Kitts and Nevis. 2. Power up in our Power Play, where lucky customers will win their purchase free. Just listen out for the Power Play alert, and if you are at the Mystery Power Register of the day, you win your purchase absolutely free with double points and more. 3. Power up up your savings with the Hosford's Value Mart Red Tag Value Deal. Yes! Power up with the savings with huge discount on select Value Deals items. Power up your points. Power up your savings. Win your purchase free in our Power Play. Power up February at Hosford's Value Mart IGA. Don't miss it.
Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back. Welcome back to Voices here on WINN FM 98.9. The phone line is open. We have our first call. Good afternoon, caller. You are live on Voices. Oop, we seem to have lost that call. Caller, you can call us back at 466-0989-762 and 662. And we are also taking your questions and comments via our WhatsApp number, 662-2204. Let's take this call. Good afternoon, caller. You are live on Voices. Oh, we having some technical difficulties with the caller. Yes, you can call us back, and you can also send your comments via WhatsApp at 662-2204. 662-2204. And again, for the callers, we have a call. We have this one now. Good afternoon, caller. You are live on Voices.
Yes, fortunately, I have this one. Good afternoon, Mr. Cornelius.
Good afternoon.
A person of my status in terms of agitating and continuing the awareness of who we are as a people and just our rightful status amongst the nations of humanity. I have to say kudos to Mr. Armony and his repertoire of information that he has and imparted in his own way. I cannot really add to what he has said because it's so much food for thought. All I can say though, on my behalf, and as it continues, be it Black History Month or whatever form of awareness, I do my own little part in my own little way without having to really see in other, in terms of my lenses, humanity as less than. Because what we have been up against, it is on all spheres, all levels of what human society ought to be. The whole dimension of what a human being ought to be. And it's multifaceted, and it is a humongous task to bring the awareness. And I try, as others would do, and try to bring the awareness in all spheres, with all respect to my brothers and sisters, be it on any religious circle or any other circle. Just to say that we are human beings and we need that, that recognition as human beings. And by saying that, And by purporting that and agitating for that, it doesn't mean that we are, I mean, like, in the sense of the continuum, we continue to say these things. We know that a lot of our people are still in a position where there has not been predisposed to this information. And it is our collective responsibility to really assist our brothers and sisters on the way. You know, there's a biblical portion that says, if your brother hungry, would you give him a stone instead of a fish?
Yeah, we all want the family. That's what you're saying, and I support that emphatically.
We have been fed like stones for quite a while, and this is the time now that we are to reach out and feed someone with the real fish as a good example. And that's all we're saying. We're tired of this stone. In many forms, we have been fed stones from the highest level. And so, yes, I always support that if we are to take this information, I am not of the view that we should take it to the schools, because the schools ought to be teaching this. We are predominantly this stock. Like Mr. Armony said, those people are aware that the school children, predominantly 90-95% of us are in the schools. So why not it being a part of the syllabus, a part of the curricula? And so when we do things and we go to the community centers and stuff, it's just pick up the little bits and pieces here and there. But predominantly, this thing should be enshrined in our curricula, in our syllabus.
I think there have been steps towards that direction.
Yes.
In the primary schools mainly, and I think that in fact, if I was to answer my host's question about 10 years ago now, I think that yes, in the past 10 years there's been a growing acceptance and understanding in the education system that we need to kind of include these things in our school's curriculum. But it's a process, because it's a process.
Yes, it should be holistic, like anything else. You have heard talks about holistic medicine. It should be holistic education. It should be holistic way of life. It should be holistic in other genre and other spheres, of our societies. And that will alleviate all of the things. Academic, yes. Vocational, yes. But there are other aspects to education to really give the good foundation to the children. So when they come and they groom and go into whatever career path they take, they are aware.
Yes. Thank you, caller, so much for your input. We are taking just a few more calls as we approach the 1:30 end time. No more calls. So at this time, I will allow Mr. Armony to give his closing remarks, and we wrap up today's Voices. Don't worry, the clock up there is a little bit fast, so we have about 1 minute left.
All right, what can I say in 1 minute? Well, again, I applaud WINN FM for these kinds of conversations, and which is a good thing, and I would hope that even though we haven't had many calls, I think sometimes people get overwhelmed when I talk.
We actually have one more call. Let us take this call. Good afternoon, caller. You are live on Voices.
Hello?
Hello, caller. Good afternoon. You're live on Voices.
Good afternoon. I know that we call it Black History Month, but I sometimes wonder if it shouldn't be called instead Black Awareness or Black Consciousness Month, because the history is the history, right? Generally, we can't change it, but we should remember the history like how the Jews remember theirs, so that it never happens again. And we should move beyond that to having the kinds of societies, of black nations, that are shining examples on the hill. And I think that is where we fall down. There is no nation that we can point to that is that shining example on the hill. Okay? The white world or the Chinese world or whoever other race, they basically still set the standards for us. We still look up to them. And as a matter of fact, I think the center of gravity of Black History Month, as was pointed out, seems inclined towards North America. The North American experience was an experience, yes, but it was certainly not the only one, okay? And I would think that the Black history experience of the mother continent, Africa, would have been the one to be concentrating on, okay? And so I think that's where we're at right now. We risk that the Black History Month become just another mundane celebration, every year the same thing, nothing new, okay? We want to advance beyond that. So I'd like to know if the guest, I don't know if he shares the same view, but certainly if he would suggest some ways by which we could advance beyond the history, okay, towards the future, looking more towards the future and making sure that our race has an equal, at least an equal, if not more important part to play in what happens in the future.
Right.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you so much, caller.
Yeah, well, I think that the history is fundamental. And you talk about the future. Yeah, before we can really, look towards the future, we have to look at the history. And I don't think that we necessarily have to be bogged down in the history. And in relation to the Black History Month, I mean, it is a brand, and it was begun in North America, the United States, and there are certain things that it grew out of, but it has grown beyond that. As a matter of fact, it has spawned Black history awareness elsewhere, and there are other movements, and especially in this world of what do you call it, media, of the what do you call it, technology?
Technology, yes.
It has pervaded, the consciousness of people all over, and I think that inevitably, as we look into the Black History Month and we look into the movement that has, in a sense, spawned this greater awareness, we will find that the story of Africa itself, the continent, would become more and more important, more prevalent. In fact, I'm beginning to see these signs already. I subscribe to BBC News and so on, and they have some African programs there and so on. We are seeing a lot of insights into what's happening on the mother continent, and there are lots of silences that have to be broken as well in Africa, particularly in relation to their notion of who they are in relation to who we are. Many Africans feel that we are the descendants of slaves, and therefore they look down on us. We have to explore all of these things. But also, history is a long thing, a long process. And if we're really talking about the shall we say, the eminence of Africa in history, we can go back to come forward. I mean, this was done in Europe. In Europe, you had a period of time when you had the so-called Dark Ages, when things seemed, the knowledge was stagnant and all that. And then you had people beginning to look into the past, into the history and so on. And it created a foment of creativity that is known as the Renaissance, right, in which the arts and science and everything flourished. And a lot of that was derived from people looking back into things in the past, in their own culture, in their own history. And of course, I have to say as well that a lot of those things that they look back in the past came from Egypt. And that is it. We're now in a closer world, and it's not easy to hide anymore, and it's not easy to hide knowledge. And that is the thing, the key. We need to be able to explore knowledge, and once we explore knowledge, then we will all be better for it. We will all know who we are in relation to who the others are. And I think in that sense, the history and the contribution to human society of Africa will become more and more evident.
Right. And thank you so much, Mr. Armony. It was a pleasure to have you. Very, very interesting discussion. And we look forward to having you back to continue. I think there is so much more that we can touch on and so much more that can be said on this topic. Thank you, guys.
I said at the beginning that I would rather sing.
Well, thank you guys so much for choosing WINN FM 98.9, and thank you so much for being a part of Voices. Thank you to the calls. Thank you to our sponsors. Until next time, stay safe.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. WINN FM.
Get ready for an exciting year with Flow Broadband and TV connecting you at home. Sign up now and get a free Samsung tablet worth over $900. Up to 100 megabits